Hello and welcome to tests of hip fire and aimed fire on the move. So I'm going to start with hip fire and we're going to start with the Bear 416. Now one of the issues with doing this test was finding somewhere flat, but because hip fire is usually close up, I've decided to do this test at 10 meters, which this convenient rock is 10 meters from that wall. And because the mouse will influence movement, so it doesn't matter how careful you are really, if you try holding the mouse and pulling the trigger, you're going to move it slightly. So a way around this that I thought of was binding keys. So instead of using the mouse to fire, I'm going to bind fire key to apostrophe. So that way I can use the strafe right key and the apostrophe, and that will let me move and fire without using the mouse. So it should be the same movement every single time. So I've had a practice run against the lower part of the wall, and once you've got the mouse lined up, just press both keys and we get the sideways traverse and firing, which you should be able to repeat every single time. So the pattern we get for the bear gun is this, which is kind of sporadic and a bit up and down, which we kind of expect really from a gun with no attachments doing hip fire. So for our second test, I'm going to put the Ergo grip on. I'm not going to be covering the barrel accessories because none of those affect movement. So we'll line it up and hit both keys, and we should get exactly the same movement so that we can then compare the firing patterns on the wall. So this is the result we get from the Ergo grip, and surprisingly it's not a lot different to the Bear gun. It's a bit more consistent with less vertical spread, but it's not a huge improvement, and I was expecting more from a grip that's supposed to help while you're moving. So let's compare that to the Stubby Grip. Now the Stubby Grip improves accuracy in full auto, so we'll see how much it affects hip fire when moving, and then we compare that to the Bear gun and to the Ergo grip. So again, a pretty spread pattern, more consistent to the Bear gun I think, but we'll have a look at the pattern itself. So there we have the pattern from the Stubby Grip, and it's pretty similar to the Bear gun to be fair. So let's compare all three together and then we can see more easily. So here are all three patterns together, and as we can see, both the Stubby and the Ergo are better than the Bear gun, with the Ergo being the best pattern and the Stubby being somewhere in between the two. Now if we look at battle log, it says that the Ergo grip improves hip fire by reducing the penalty added for shooting on the move by 50%. Now this movement penalty can't be very large because the 15% accuracy bonus that the Stubby grip gives is doing a fairly similar job. So I'm kind of disappointed by the performance of the Ergo grip in what is supposed to be its main role. So now let's move on to aimed fire on the move. So for this we're going to test it in exactly the same way from 10 meters against the same wall. And so we're going to have to go back to the Bear M416 to the same place, but we are going to have to change the key binding slightly because of course aiming uses the mouse as well. As I want to avoid the mouse moving the cursors at any point, we're going to have to go into the options and add another key binding. So simply going to move down to zoom and bind that as well, so we won't have to use the mouse at all even while aiming. So here we are back at our wall, and simply press one key and it aims, and then when I hit the other two at the same time, it will aim, strafe and fire. So that should be pretty easy to replicate. And here's the pattern we get for the bear gun aimed fire on the move. So that's a fairly reasonable pattern. We've got a bit of spread developing as we go along, but it seems pretty neat and easy to control. So now let's move on to the Ergo Grip. Now some people say the Ergo Grip also helps with aimed fire, although it doesn't mention it in its little description, but we'll give it a try so we can compare it. So there's the pattern for the Ergo Grip. And it's fairly similar to the bear gun. It's fairly tight at the start and then starts to spread out towards the end of the pattern. So now let's move on to the Stubby Grip, and we'll go back to the rock. And use the combination of fingers to reproduce the same fire pattern. So we can see almost straight away that the Stubby Grip is almost a straight line with a few deviations, but we're getting a much tighter line than we were with either the Ergo Grip or the bear gun. So let's put them all side by side and see what the comparison is. So here are all three patterns together, and as we can see, the bear gun is okay, but a bit up and down. The Ergo Grip is better, and it's got less of a spread, but by far the best is the Stubby Grip. So if you're aiming and moving, then the Stubby Grip is the best option. So there's both tests done, and what conclusions can we draw? So if you're hip firing at 10 meters, then the Ergo Grip is the best option, but not by a lot. The Stubby Grip is pretty much identical, slightly worse, but not so much that's going to make an awful lot of difference. If you're aiming and moving, then the Stubby Grip is by far the best. The Ergo Grip does seem to slightly improve aimed fire on the move, which isn't in its description, but it's nowhere near as good as the Stubby Grip. So with the Ergo Grip being disappointing on hip fire and the Stubby Grip being far better on aimed fire, kind of have to come to the conclusion that the Stubby Grip is the best grip for using when on the move, and that the Ergo Grip's 50% bonus sounds impressive but doesn't really do much. So Stubby Grip appears to be king. It was by far the best option in the standing still tests, and it's come out as the best overall option in the moving tests as well. So that's it for another comparison video. I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.